For those of us who have been denizens of the conspiratorium for lo these many years, the name that we have always talked about, the name that we have always brought to the attention of the world, or tried to, is George Soros. We've been almost obsessed with it. We've sounded kind of crazy sometimes. And the rest of the world doesn't seem to know anything about him. And the rest of the conservative world knows even less. They don't do anything. They don't respond. We don't have our own George Soros. We don't have this. I will never understand how this works. I will never understand how nobody says, why don't we follow suit? During the Zoran Mamdani election, everybody came out. Bill Ackman, billionaires, everybody. I thought, this is great. Maybe we've awakened the sleeping giant and formed a new coalition to act as a counter Soros. No, nothing. Nothing of the sort. Nothing happened. So I'm going to give you, perhaps if you've never heard this, maybe for the first time, a bit of a primer, or some people say a primer, but a primer, a kind of an abecedarian look at what's going on, kind of a version of what's happening, a look of how this thing actually seriously works, what it is, how this system works, who runs what. And it's one of those stories that is so critical and so important and so critical for all of us to be aware of. So we're going to be doing that. So I want you, first of all, to thank you for being a part. Please join us. Make sure you subscribe and like it. You know the routine. If you don't know how you have to like and whatever by now, I don't know what to tell you. But before we begin, let me tell you something which is absolutely so critical right now. We have something to tell you, especially in view of Christmas that is so incredible. This Christmas is no time, my dear friend, for complacency. And I'm telling you, not with the world as fragile as it is. Give the gift that actually matters this year. The one thing every family needs, but too few take seriously. Real, tangible, actual food. Food security. It's something which they used to say, oh, that's prepper, you're crazy. I don't think so. Preparedness is not crazy. And right now, our friends at My Patriot Supply are running a deal that is impossible to ignore. It's their buy one, gift two Christmas special. And you need to hear this clearly. All month long, when you pick up a 4-week emergency food kit, they will send you 2 additional 1-week food kits absolutely free. No strings, no gimmicks, no nothing. You secure your household's backup supply, and you instantly have 2 life-saving gifts to hand to people you care about. The information is right here. I have the details in the description section on my YouTube channel here. Those 1-week kits are perfect for anyone already into the preparedness or movement, so to speak, or anyone who needs that wake-up call. One small box can turn someone from vulnerable to ready. In times like these, that matters more than you will ever know. We all feel the tension, my friend, the tension in the air, and we all see how quickly shelves empty when the unexpected hits. Having food put away and prepared is no longer fringe. It is responsible. It is sane. And this buy one, gift two deal means you are protecting yourself while giving meaningful Christmas gifts that genuinely help others stay safe. Do not wait on this, my friends. This offer is only here for the holiday season, and once it's gone, it's gone. So go right now to preparewithlionel.com, preparewithlionel, easy for me to say, .com, and lock in your order. That's preparewithlionel.com. And go there now. And we thank you. Thank you for your insistence, and thank you for your sapience and your sagacity, as it were. Now let's look at this right now. For those who might have been living under a rock for years, who don't know about this, who don't know who this Soros guy is and why we're talking about it. And I hope this message, this isn't for the liberals. It's for the alleged conservatives, the fathers of the movement, whatever that is. You know, there are moments in American politics that when the mask slips, you know, and the public gets a rare look, kind of like behind the curtain, at how power really operates, it's frightening. You know, not the slogans, not the patriotic commercials, not the smiling candidates and all that stuff, but the reality, the real machinery, who runs what and how it works, and the shadow governments and shadow networks, the billionaire funded operations that drop into small communities and reshape elections without the voters even knowing about it, without them ever fully understanding what happened. This story is one of those moments, and it should terrify anyone who still believes elections are about the will of the people. If you have any faith in elections, if you have absolutely any faith in elections and trust, you're out of your mind. You are out of your mind. I'm sorry. Election denial? No. Election mistrust, distrust. The scene isn't New York or Los Angeles this time. It's not Chicago or Atlanta. It's Maine. Quiet, rural, quaint, local. A place where district attorney races usually come down to who mows their own lawn or who knows the sheriff by name. Simple. But into this little small contest, a political missile was launched. Not by a resident, not by a local activist, not by community groups. No. It came from far away, from a billionaire who has treated America's justice system as his own personal little destructive laboratory. The ads were funded by a political committee backed by George Soros, who has spent the last 10 years, strategically installing prosecutors across the fruited plain in order to reshape criminal justice according to his ideological, sick, warped, and demented vision. And my friend, listen to me. This is not speculation. This isn't guesswork. It is documented fact. Soros and the PACs tied to him have poured millions into district attorney elections coast to coast. And the pattern is always the same. Massive spending arrives from outside the community. A wave of attack ads flood local media markets. Opponents with smaller budgets are drowned in nationalized messaging they can't counter. Voters overwhelmed by the sudden onslaught. They're left trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Who's buying the noise? That is exactly what happened here. The incumbent is Jonathan Sarbeck, and he may have expected a tough race. He didn't expect an air raid of political ads accusing him of misconduct and moral value, and ads crafted by people who never met him. Ads paid for by a billionaire who had never set foot in the county. This wasn't ordinary campaign criticism. This was a pressure campaign. A pressure campaign designed to destroy a candidate's reputation on a timeline he couldn't control. All financed by a man with a net worth of more than $7 billion. And the challenger, Jacqueline Sartoris, caught in the middle of something she never asked for. Her own father, a Republican, who could not stomach Soros' political agenda, begged her to repudiate the ads. Supporters cornered her with questions she couldn't answer. Questions she couldn't answer because under Maine law, the PAC was forbidden from coordinating with her. But yet the damage created by that PAC was attached to her, whether she liked it or not. And reporters demanded comments. Voters demanded explanations. And it was just incredible. And her campaign manager must have felt like someone pulled the steering wheel away, mid-drive. Like, what's going on here? Well, she decided to distance herself publicly. She even added the serenity prayer to her script as a private reminder to accept what she couldn't change. And that alone tells you everything. And imagine running for local office, believing your campaign is about policy and community, then discovering you're now the reluctant beneficiary of a political attack from one of the wealthiest men on the planet. the reluctant beneficiary. Imagine having to apologize for help you didn't seek, or advertising you didn't approve. Imagine your entire race hijacked by a man who doesn't live in your state and will never face the consequences of the policies he promotes. And do not overlook the financial magnitude. The Soros-backed PAC dropped $384,000 on that small race. And that figure is almost in context. It was 5 times the combined amount raised by both candidates together in a local district attorney race. This isn't normal. This isn't organic democracy. This is hostile takeover. When one man can spend quintuple the amount of every local donor combined, you no longer have a grassroots election. You have engineered outcomes. And it raises a chilling question. If a billionaire can reshape criminal justice in Maine, a small state with modest media markets, what prevents him from doing it everywhere? What prevents any mega donor from parachuting into your town or your county or your state and electing the prosecutor who matches their ideology? What prevents your local elections from becoming the playthings and the trinkets from the ultra wealthy who see American democracy as some kind of chessboard? People tend to underestimate district attorney races. They think they're minor. They're not. Prosecutors determine what crimes are charged. They determine plea deals. They influence bail. They shape sentencing. They decide whether repeat offenders cycle back into the community or stay behind bars. And the wrong prosecutor can unleash chaos in a matter of months. And it spreads systemically. The right prosecutor can protect families, businesses for years. Now, imagine the power not chosen by the people, but purchased by outsiders. Imagine drug policy rewritten by billionaires who will never witness the overdose victims. Imagine cash bail abolished because donors thousands of miles away think it's philosophically elegant, restorative justice. Imagine leniency granted to extremely violent offenders because some billionaire believes rehabilitation should replace accountability. That's happening now. And I'm telling you, these aren't abstractions. These are real political realities pushed by real candidates backed by enormous sums of money. And when a community resists, they find themselves overwhelmed by attack ads, bankrolled by fortunes larger than the state budget. This is the horror in the story. Not that a billionaire has opinions. That's not it. Not that he supports candidates he believes in. That's not it. The real danger is the asymmetry. A local election can be bought with a handful of checks from a donor who will never face the results of those policies. A town that never asked for ideological experiments becomes the testing ground for a national agenda. And the voters, the people who live with the consequences, suddenly discover their voices are nowhere near loud enough to drown out the money. A functioning democracy, which I think we all believe that we have, cannot survive when precious local elections become little billionaire projects and the integrity of a community, yours, can't be safeguarded or protected when the scale of outside spending outweighs, dwarfs all local voices. People talk about foreign interference. What about domestic interference from donors whose wealth allows them to overwhelm entire states? What happened in this race is not a footnote. It's a warning. And it shows how fragile local democracy has become. And I want you to listen to this and ask this all the time. When I say something right now, keep asking you, what's the GOP doing? What's Trump doing? Where's our Soros? Where? I mean, outsiders can manipulate the justice system from afar and we do nothing about it. We just sit there and we watch. It shows how even honest candidates can be swept into battles they never asked for. It shows how one billionaire, one, and by the way, there are more behind them, can distort an election and the results simply because he can. And if that doesn't frighten people, see what happened in that Maine race is not some one-off embarrassment. It's a glimpse of how one very rich man and his very powerful network have figured out how to bend the justice system in dozens of jurisdictions without even appearing on a ballot. And by the way, they think they're great. In Cumberland County, Maine, this sleepy little district attorney contest turned into this national proxy war when this committee dropped $384,000 on ads, attacking the incumbent, boosting his challenger. And that single outside spent was 5 times, again, both candidates. It's just incredible. Everybody talked about it. Local people were barraged by slick spots. They're saying, "Who is this? Who are these people?" And even the eventual winner admitted she will always wonder whether votes were for her or George Soros. He doesn't know. So zoom out and you see the pattern. Through the Justice and Public Safety PAC, that's the name, and a cluster of little similarly named entities, Soros poured millions into district attorney and similar races across the country for more than a decade. A Washington Post analysis found that his network had spent in at least 62 DA races with a win rate about 77%, while using only about a fifth of the money Elon Musk spent on the 2024 campaign. In other words, his money is highly targeted and highly efficient. Conservative watchdogs and law enforcement groups have tried to quantify the scope. One report from the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund, and followed up by Media Research Center, estimate about 75 and 126 prosecutors with meaningful Soros backing now serve in offices that cover roughly 30% of the United States. I mean, it is unbelievable. That includes some of the biggest and most troubled and most critical jurisdictions in the country. Now, the list of the marquee names is long and ugly. Larry Krasner in Philly received about $1.5 million in backing from Soros and his link groups. He's been repeatedly blasted by police and victims' families as homicide numbers surged and repeat offenders walked. Look at Kensington. Just look no further. That's the place. George Gascon in LA County, he was supported by roughly $4.7 million in Soros-backed PAC spending. His sweeping, these non-prosecution policies triggered revolts from his own deputy prosecutors and recall efforts that came close to the ballot. Kim Fox in Cook County, Chicago, received at least $2 million in Soros. Remember her during the Juicy Smell It? Remember that one? Her office became a national symbol of soft handling of violent offenders when Juicy went through that ridiculous fiasco. She since announced she will not seek re-election. Oh, God. Chesa Boudin, remember this one in San Francisco, benefited from Soros's aligned PAC money and then faced a historic recall as residents finally rebelled against open-air drug markets and brazen property crime. This is it. And here's the best part. Kim Gardner in St. Louis, remember that one? Another Soros-backed prosecutor? Resigned under fire after years of chaos and non-prosecution scandals. Remember the Bukowskis, whatever the fellows the couple who wanted to protect their homes? Rachel Rollins in Boston and Marilyn Mosby in Baltimore were both held up as reform stars Rollins later resigned among ethics violations, and Mosby, I think Mosby, was indicted on federal charges unrelated to Soros, but very revealing about the culture of impunity around these people. It just never stops. Alvin Bragg, our own Alvin Bragg in Manhattan, didn't receive a personal check from Soros, but his campaign was heavily boosted by Soros-funded groups such as Color of Change and New York Justice and Public Safety PAC. He quickly drew national outrage for downgrading serious charges, treating violent offenders as paperwork problems, going after Trump relentlessly. At the same time, he made himself famous by aggressively pursuing Trump and others as well. You know, you can keep adding to this list. Scott Collum in Mississippi, Aramis Ayala in Orlando, Jose Garza in Austin, and many others received decisive independent expenditures from Soros-affiliated committees that flipped offices, which had long been reliably law and order. So what are you going to do about it? The policy package tends to look the same wherever these prosecutions win. Reduce or abolish cash bail, even for repeat offenders. Decline to prosecute whole categories of crimes that are labeled nonviolent. Treat serious drug trafficking as a public health kind of a hiccup or an oops. Refuse to seek sentencing enhancements for gun crimes. Approach police not as partners but as suspects. Heritage Foundation analysts summed it up bluntly and not without reason as local prosecutors, quote, waging war on law and order. This is going on right now. And what are the Republicans doing? Nothing. They're going on cable news shows. They're making jokes about it. They're tweeting. You know, critics are not imagining the fallout. City Journal found that many of the highest profile Soros-style prosecutors had either been defeated, resigned in disgrace, or faced recall once voters connected their policies to real-world crime. This Boudin, I love it, was recalled. Gardner quit. Fox is leaving. Gascon barely survived a recall attempt. Residents in these cities did not suddenly become right-wing. No. This is not about conservative. They simply reacted, and they reached their limit with a theory that sounded compassionate in a seminar and looked like carnage in the street because America's had it. And as I said last night on WABC, the number one issue is crime. And what makes all of this more disturbing is the asymmetry. The user and the citizen is right to sense that there's no clean Republican mirror image. Yes, there are conservative mega donors. The Koch network has spent heavily on federal races and deregulatory. The Adelsons were known for massive spending on national Republican campaigns. You know about them. Musk writes big checks when he feels like it. But almost no conservative donor has spent 10 years quietly remaking local prosecutorial offices in dozens of jurisdictions at once. And Soros and now his son Alex have treated district attorneys as a kind of a plaything, as a system to be captured and reprogrammed. And my friend, that is different in scale and in intent. So, why has he not been prosecuted or stopped? In blunt legal terms, because every time anybody brings up the topic, nobody does anything. Because very little of what he is doing also is illegal. And that's the biggest problem. See, federal law allows independent expenditure committees to spend unlimited sums as long as they do not coordinate with the candidate campaign. Soros uses that model in a textbook way. He writes enormous checks to his own PACs. Those PACs blitz local airwaves and mailboxes with ads. Candidates keep their hands clean and say with a straight face that they have no control over it. Campaign finance scholars on both left and right have noted that the Soros effect as an object lesson, kind of in how I guess one single donor can dominate and determine low information races. So, my friend, does that make you angry? How does that make you feel? Does that anger you? It should also be channeled the right way. If citizens and Americans want to know what to do, if they want to stop this, they need tighter rules on outside money in local races. Simple. And more transparency on who is funding whom. They need public financing models. Models that make it harder, real hard, for any billionaire to drown an entire county's conversation for the price of one Manhattan condo. What they do not need is some fantasy of throwing political opponents in prison without evidence of actual crimes. Even Donald Trump's recent suggestion that Soros and his son should be charged under racketeering laws has not produced charges because so far it is rhetoric and not a criminal case. But the idea is there and the focus is there. At least he's saying something. And that doesn't make Soros benign. It makes him clever. He is using every loophole in the system to push a very dangerous worldview that treats criminals as victims and victims as statistics. He is turning local justice into some laboratory for elite theories and these wonderful things. Restorative justice. I've told you this a million times. That or non-retributive, non-carceral. There are all kinds of names that follow under it. They want ordinary people who never voted and do not want once they see the consequence. Look. This main story is a microcosm, okay? A local race in a small state overwhelmed by $384,000 from a man worth billions, okay? Now let me ask you this. What are we going to do about this? What do we do about this? We have got to get the message to our leaders, to our Trumps and Kochs and Elons to say, we need to do this as well. Take what he has done and mirror it. Go into races and say, if you believe in law and order, if you believe in safety, if you believe in protecting your children, if you believe in doing what is right, and if you want to reject and eschew this nonsense, this non-retributive, whatever this non-carceral, whatever this gobbledygook is, we have to do this now. Listen, time is running out. I am telling you, I don't think most of the lefties who purport to believe in this, I think they're just anti-Trump. Anti-Trump is what they're about. They don't really have a solid conviction. They have no platform that they believe in. They don't have a worldview that's in any way indicative of something rational. Their worldview and their ideas are all about just this notion of, how do I say this? Just non-Trump, anti-Trump. That only goes so far. That's not a policy. Anti-Trump doesn't go far. It doesn't work. It is incumbent upon us to go out and to push this. Are you with me? Are we going to do something? Are we going to take our collective outrage and go after Republican and GOP leaders and say, God damn it, do something? I don't know what you think. Going on cable news shows, maybe you like that. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe deep down inside, some of our folks want to be movie stars or want to be loved or want to be sexy. I don't know. But they're not acting like politicians. And they're not acting like stewards of our precious constitutional republic. Are you with me on this? Would you join me in telling these people to tweet or X or whatever you do, post, to go after people and say, what are you doing? To ask our beloved billionaire benefactors, do something. What are you waiting for? Do a counter protest, dilute, go after, set up. I think there's more, I would imagine, especially folks who like Palantir and others. And don't forget, Palantir is being very connected to the Republican and the Trump line for purposes of a lot of things, self-existence and survival. So in any event, that is it. It is very cold here in New York City. It's 34 degrees right now, but it's a real cold. And as we are right off of the Hudson River, it's, you turn a corner and say, wow. So anyway, I hope you are well. I want to thank you immensely. Please go to preparewithlionel.com. I got to tell you something right now. If you do nothing, if you do absolutely nothing, if you just like catalogs and cool stuff, remember Hammacher, Schlemmer, and Peterman's and all those great kind of like those bathroom catalogs? This is the best one ever. Go to preparewithlionel.com. Look at what they've got. Look at the devices, the items, what they have available for preparation. Remember, when the shit hits the fan, you need 4 things: food, water, energy, and ammo. I can't help you with the ammo, but everything else I can. All right, dear friends, thank you so much. Please stay subscribed. Tonight, 1 to 5. I'm going to have other videos coming up. You never know, because when I'm available, I'm available. And when I'm inspired, I go live. And that's why you have to pay attention. Thank you for following us. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. Tell a friend. Bring them on board. Bring them on board. Bring them with us. Come on, let them go. Also, subscribe to my newsletter. Did you see the great piece I did the other day about George Soros? Oh my God. It is absolutely one. I did one on him that was, here we go. It's called, Why Isn't George Soros in Prison? I'll give you right now. This is it right now. This is it. Read this beauteous. I'll give you it right now. You can get this. This is for free. No obligation. This is the link. Find out right there. Connect, subscribe, be a part of it, and join the force. Remember, there is force. We are force multipliers. They can't stop us. We're not going to just sit back and say, oh, that's nice. We're going to do something. And I want you to join me and Mrs. L. By the way, follow her at Lynn's Warriors. She's doing incredible jobs to protect our children. We're going to do it. As a friend of mine one time said, I know this may sound crude, but I said, he said, remember, we can drown them in our urine. I said, what the hell is that? Some kind of undinistic urolagnic reference? He goes, no. There are so many of us. They just can't out people us. They can't out people us. All right, dear friends, we love you. Have a great and a glorious day. Thank you for supporting us. We'll be back. Remember, don't give up. Don't give up faith. Don't give up the ship. Have a great and a glorious day. And comment as you see fit. I'm going to have some comments here in the comment section, and I want you to weigh in as well. All right, my friends, have a great day. Thanks so much. Don't forget, the monkey's dead. Show's over. Sue you. Ta-ta.